Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Midnight Club Season 1, Episode 6. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. We start this episode off in a very interesting way. We've never done this before, where we're starting off in the middle of a story. I even love how Mesh has that kind of almost like inside joke of like, can we like go through one story without commentary from the peanut gallery? And it's like, yeah, I mean, because it's kind of a funny thing, because every story that's ever been told over the course of this show so far has gotten interrupted, at least once or twice throughout, because he was in the middle of killing his latest victim and ended up having to kill her little brother because he walked in on a scene. Good thing he grabs the bodies and does what he does, because the fact is, if he left that body there, like her brother too, luckily he does what he does with his whole process, because I'm assuming because I'd assume he only equips himself just for one victim, but maybe he had enough to wrap her brother up too. But the reason why I'm saying that is because he bit Dusty, and so he would have been able to, they would have been able to check his teeth for, well, I don't know what like DNA stuff was like in the 90s, because I'm basing that on like modern technology, and I don't know if that was at a point where they probably would have been able to get stuff from his teeth and stuff like that. I didn't even think about it until just now, but I'm like, the person who plays her little brother, the one he murders, is the actor who also plays his brother, isn't it? I think it's the same person. So it's like, oh, once again, it's just like they do that on purpose. And once again, not just within the confines of the show, but like actually the stories that each member of the Midnight Club's telling. They do that obviously on purpose. And I love Spencer's like, wow, this guy's a badass. But it's like, no, he didn't mean to kill him. And it's like, he didn't deserve it. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's like, none of these girls deserved it. It's just simply, the voices are too loud. You can't, once they've chosen someone, and there's no like fighting it, no matter how much and I think this is the first time they've shown that it was through his mom that the voices are reaching out to him. It's like his mom says the next victim. So obviously, Sheila is trying her best to get the detective to look into it, because she's figured out, like, right, whoever this is most likely has to be a boy or age. But the reason why the detective isn't jumping on that is because she's like, right, whoever did this has been committing murders over the past 4 decades. So we're looking for an older gentleman. So that begs the question, well, it has to be that this voice speaks to different people. So either it's a situation of it went after it, like spoke to one person for a very long period of time before moving on to our latest killer, that being Dusty, or not, unless it's implying like maybe it was his mom at first and then it was him. To me, I'm surprised the detective didn't jump on, like, I feel like the easiest theory that would have been be trackable. It's like, right, this is based on some information it's like, right, then this person might have had some contact with the killer if they knew details that no one publicly knew. But I guess it's like the easiest thing to be like, no, like this killer, I guess I don't even know what profiling is like in the 90s. So I'm like, maybe they think like whoever the killer is, there's no way they have, because I was about to say, you don't think they potentially it could be like a father passing it on to their son, or once again, in this particular case, a mother passing it on to her son. But it could just be like, once again, the voices spoke to one person after over those 40 years, it could have just been like, no, like there could have been multiple killers in this 40-year time span, and it just, maybe it moves on from like high school kid to high school kid to high school kid, because we don't know what the situation is with the other victims. So, but the consistency of it probably being high school girls probably fits the motive of it being the same killer. Plus, the hourglass symbol being left is kind of like one of those factors that was never mentioned publicly. So, and even to the point, Sheila kind of concedes like, right, this is probably a killer. So she's telling her, it's like, Dusty, let's go on a regular day. Thank you for having my back throughout all this, and it makes it that much more sadistic. And that he's been helping, but that's kind of like this typical like serial killer thing to do. It's like, oh, keep an eye on the investigation. This way, you don't even have to keep a direct eye on the investigation. Whatever Sheila finds out, she's going to give to like the detective anyway. So you kind of have, because they're going to be in constant contact, and whatever Sheila finds out from the detective, you'll find out from her. So it's like it's a win-win for him. So, but him and Sheila are in a good place, and he's happy, despite everything. It is interesting too that the detective reached out to him about the Einstein like messaging thing. It's like, oh yeah, like, do you have an account? He's like, yeah, everyone has one. She's trying to figure out his name. It's like, oh, what's your name on the thing? And he's like, yeah, it's this. And she's like, oh, do you have any other accounts? He's like, no. And I'm like, huh, because I was like, the smart thing to do, because yeah, he definitely has like a different name. Because I was about to say, like, it's the reason why he's hesitant to give her one. I'm like, do you actually not have one, and an official one? We know you have one to reach out to your victims, but it's like, no, he has an official one, but he has his unofficial one. I mean, we don't know how many fake accounts he has. So, but before the story could go any, well, I think the last time we got was like up to him with Sheila, and I want to say like, he's getting closer because now she's the next victim and there's no fighting it, no matter how much he cares about her, how much he likes her. But now it's like when the time comes, I think he sees Nancy's ghost, and that's where your boy Kevin stops the story there. It's like, right, you got to live to continue. They hear the conclusion to this story. I wonder, has he done that? Like, has it all been the same continued narrative? Or has he just done like, oh, I did a serial killer thing before, but now I'm doing another serial killer thing? It's been probably like a consistent theme in maybe all his stories. I mean, because we don't know how many stories like Kevin's told in the time he's been here. Because like, once again, like Anya, once again, is like the one that's, her and Sandra have been here the longest because they've both been here roughly 6 months. So either way, tangents and all that aside, in fact, Ilanka decides like, no, I think I have a story. And it's like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, it's about a witch. And Anya's like, go ahead. She's like, wait, did you say witch or did you say bitch? I like that. I mean, especially because when Anya kind of broke down in Ilanka's arms last episode, like they were already kind of getting decently close, but I think that brought them even closer. And so Ilanka tells this story about a witch, and I was like, oh yeah, the actress who plays her mom is one of the parents from Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass is the only other like Mike Flanagan thing I've seen, so I'm sure she might have been in Bly Manor or Haunting House on Hill House, but either way, she plays Ilanka's character Imani's mom. They're witches. The women in her family have been witches, and they look into the whole like scrying thing, which I thought that was so interesting that scrying applies the way it does. Because when I think of scrying, I think of Charmed. I think they did it in a reboot as well. Definitely had to have. But it's more like you hold a crystal or whatever, like over a map because you're trying to pinpoint something. I didn't know like it. I don't know if this is just something for this continuity or is that a typical thing with witch? Because I know like the Vampire Diaries and stuff like that. That universe also does the scrying thing as well. Like, but I don't think I've ever seen it used into like the premonition route. Which, I mean, it's funny. I used a Charm example considering like, well, you had Phoebe in the original series and I'm already forgetting. Did Maggie eventually get the premonition abilities in the reboot? Because I know their mom is the one who had the premonition ability. I don't think any of them ever got the premonition abilities. Because I know Maggie's original ability was she was able to like hear what your inner thoughts were, like know what your feelings were or something like that. And then eventually she became, full-blown empath and everything. Well, now that might have been season 2. Maybe her original ability was like being able to see the future. I just don't remember. It's been a while. Either way, tangents and all that aside, it's more like a premonition ability. But I do like that it's kind of basically Final Destination rules of like, if you've never seen any of the Final Destination movies, someone has a premonition and is able to them and a whole bunch of people are able to escape death. But then eventually death is going to get what it's owed. So one way or another, death starts finding roundabout ways to kill everyone that escaped death. It's kind of that thing of like, oh, it's a simple thing of the little girl, like I think she had ice cream or something in her hand, kid bumps into her. Imani stops it, after seeing the vision, but the problem is she ends up tripping over a rock and dropping it regardless. So it's like, right, you can stretch the rubber band as much as you want to, but it will eventually pop back. Basically, the universe will get what it's owed. So you can interfere up to some extent, but it's always going to, like, the end result is going to be what it is, like in some shape or form. And even her mom saying, be careful, because if you stretch the rubber band too far, not only will it like snap back and it will hurt you specifically. And then the whole thing of never scry at night. And I'm wondering why that is. We never got an explanation to that because also the story was interrupted. So we have no idea like what the full ramifications are. Maybe it's just like, maybe it pushes the ability like the ability to see the future, it probably pushes it way further than it naturally, well, because it didn't push it, because at least with the girl in the park, it didn't go that far. It was probably like maybe like a couple of seconds. It's a decent chunk enough time before like Imani's later vision ended up happening. So I don't know what to make of that. Who knows how often she was practicing at all when her mom died, because she was doing all this trying to find answers. And obviously this translates beautifully to everything that's going on. She wants to help Anya, truth be told, she wants to help all of them. And now it's like, right, she's telling this story of, love and magic. And she had gotten a vision of Ben getting killed in a robbery at a gas station or a liquor store or whatever. But it's like, right, she didn't know the guy. Then her friends drag her out to meet with a guy. It turns out to be the guy from the visions. I did love the whole like name thing, and it's like, oh, like her name is Swahili for, what was it, faith? And Ben's like, yeah, mine is like means son. He's like, my parents weren't that creative. And Randy's like, yeah, my parents named me Randy. And he's like, what the fuck were my parents thinking when they named me that? He's like, a name and excuse. I see you, Dad. So I thought that was kind of neat. But the moment they got there, Imani tried to tell Ben, don't do it, don't go, just let's go somewhere else. So her friend Scotty went in, Anya's character, and ends up getting shot. So, they end up taking her to a hospital, but it's still touch and go on whether or not she'll make it or not. Because this is after like her mom had died, like, because she still never found out the answer to like why her mom. I mean, it makes sense because it's like, right, this is a girl that is about your daughter's age, but apparently she's healed people before, but for whatever reason, this one proved too much and she ended up dying in the process. So it's like, what went wrong in this case? Like, there's so many answers, which I think almost feels befitting, like what we got of that story, how it parallels the rest of this episode in that regard. Nevertheless, Ben and Imani have continued dating, but then they're at a gas station. I was like, there's no way it's going to, well, and it's like, the universe has a sick sense of humor that it's like, right, this place is getting rough. And the moment that lady's acting off, I'm like, the guy's here, isn't he? And then Imani turns and she tries to like knock the gun out of his hands, but ends up turning towards Ben. But before the story could even be finished, Anya passes out. Turns out she has sepsis. And now it's a situation of, well, Stanton is kind of like, well, we just got to make her as comfortable as possible. And everyone's handling it in their own way. Sandra's even saying like, yeah, like, God, has a plan for all of us, but even she's like, nah, screw that, screw this, screw that, screw cancer, it just sucks. And then even Natsuki's kind of adding in, like, at the very least, it sucks, but all we can do is hope that Anya goes quick, and because she's like, this place is lingering with death. Death is like here with us at all time. So maybe hopefully it doesn't stick around, maybe it just passes through Anya quickly. But Ilanka was like, nah, man, fuck that. Like, I hope that Anya doesn't go quietly. I hope she bites her teeth into it and rips its Death's old wrinkly ass a new one. Because for her, it's like, why should we just kind of accept death, like, quietly? It's like, no, we're going to fight tooth and nail. She's like, if it means saving Anya, if it means saving any one of you, I would burn this world down. I was like, yo, speaking so passionately, it's like, that's what it means to love someone. But then you have Stanton saying something that I think there's beauty and merit into it, and that's the conversation of, if you spend the entire time fighting, and when Anya's gone, what are you going to have left? You basically spent so much of that time fighting, you never actually got a chance to say goodbye. And it is that thing that sometimes, like, right, you're so denial about something that rather than being there for that person before the time is up, like, you are away and you're going to end up carrying that regret for the rest of your life. It's like, it's that thing of like, you've come here not to necessarily like fight, but kind of make peace with everything, And it's hard to say, like, because I can see both sides of that argument of like, no, you want to keep fighting, because most families would want that. I mean, even Tim wanted that. He was like, no, like, we'll do what's up, we'll keep fighting. But Ilanka kind of wanted to more go down the peace route. To be fair, that was also because the Julia of it all, because she thought like, no, I might be able to come here. This place is special. I might get cured. So there's that angle to it. So even she, like, so that's like, her real purpose wasn't here to come here peacefully and go. It's like, no, to potentially find a cure, like how Julia got cured. So that's the complicated thing of it all. And later on, she's seeing Alanka, and she's like, "Right, when I first got here, I just desperately wanted you to like me, and now she's like, I'd give anything for you to like cuss me out like right now." And it's like, I love you, and if this is how you want to go, then I would kind of respect that. But, Anya wakes up and she's like, I want to live. And that, especially when Stanton's going on about like, oh, it's about making her peaceful. Anka's like, man, fuck that. She decides that she's going to use whatever it is that Julia used to get healed, using the whole story from the Paragons. And she ends up meeting, was it Shasta? Is it Shansta? Or I think it's just Shasta, out in the woods. Made sure to remember her name this time. And she tells her everything. And like Shasta already knew about a lot of stuff. She even has a tattoo, and it's like, no, the Paragons were very like misguided. So I guess she's kind of like a new it. Well, because she says the emblem is even older than like the Paragons, and they were just kind of misguided in what they were doing. But she went on this beautiful. It's like the moment I was like, Mike Flanagan in that monologue bag, when she was basically talking, because what was it? I forgot the exact wording Stanton said. It was basically like, oh, fighting gravity isn't like, you can't fight gravity. Fighting gravity isn't natural or something like that. And Shasta was like pissed off by that, because she's like, right, birds, like you say like, oh, fighting gravity isn't kind of natural, whatever. It's like things fight gravity all the time. Like birds and a small bug is able to fight gravity. That doesn't make sense, but we just kind of accept and kind of talking about the weird things of the world of like how we just accept certain things. It's like, oh yeah, 1,000 years of blah, 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 blah. And we just kind of accept it. She was basically saying that the world is so crazy that those who kind of like, who are the special few who kind of like look outside the box, kind of see things in a different light. This crazy world will call you crazy, and that in itself is crazy. And I was like, it was once again, using the word again, this beautiful soliloquy she went on, and I thought it was so interesting, and like how heated she was, like, but talking from like this passion, and not in an angry way, but like it was heated in like the passion in which she was speaking, and it meant a lot for Ilanka, because here's another adult feeling what she felt, and it's like, right, I'm here to be your blood sister, so you just need 4 more. And oh, look, there's 4 more girls in your squad, so she has to talk it over with everyone, which everyone has their reservations, and it's like, who knows if this is going to work, but like Ilanka's like, yeah, but even if it doesn't, it's better than doing nothing. Like, even if it, and I think it was it Amish who was like, yeah, but what if we get caught like when we're doing this? And she's like, what's the worst they're going to do? Kill us, And it's like, because it's Ilanka, and she would like kick the devil in the teeth for any of us. And so Kevin was the first one to kind of sign up, and slowly around everyone's like, all right, I'll do it. Because even Natsuki was like, yeah, I've seen some weird stuff, some weird dreams. And, if there's some bit of magic in this place, I'll do it. So everyone decides to chip in. I even love Sherry's being like, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, this all sounds reasonable to me. But the hang up was Sandra, because Sandra felt like this was an affront to God. It's like this, you're dealing with like, you don't know what you're messing with type of situation. And it's like understandable, like, don't get it twisted. Sandra was spitting facts. Like, we are deep diving into some dark shit that we probably shouldn't be messing with, because once we open this door, God knows what we're letting in. And it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you dabble in the occult. It's like, there is a double-edged sword to anything. If there's anything you want to take away from Full Metal Alchemist, and that's the main theme of Full Metal Alchemist, the equivalent exchange. To get what you want, you have to pay a price, and even then, paying the price won't get you what you want. Look at Ed and Al. It sure as hell wasn't even worth it in the end to try and bring their mom back with what it cost them, and that's the thing, like, if that, even if you think you got the equivalent exchange down, that doesn't always mean anything. So, and Natsuki ended up talking to Sandra, because Sandra's like, yeah, the others are pissed at me, aren't they? But they're like, no, like, they understand, and it's a situation of, for her, it's like her faith is what she has, and she can't turn it on and off it's like, but Natsuki's like, you don't have to. I'm not telling you to kind of change anything. You don't even have to believe in what we're doing. You don't have to let go of your faith. Just be there. That's all that matters. But then she does later on have that nightmare of Ilanka and all the cultists surrounding her, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so when they go down the elevator later to the basement, and that the word "don't" was written in sheets, because Anya definitely saw that, but like neither her or Ilanka mentioned anything. And it's weird because later on Sandra shows up and she's like, "Oh, did you notice anything weird?" That's why I was like, "Wait, because I was like, did she come down here to do that?" But it's like, if she did, then why would no? She wouldn't have done that. But she was probably thinking like, before we do this, were there any signs of anything weird? And Ilanka being like, "No," and it's like, well, there was a warning, so something or someone here. It might even been the old lady that might have been like, "Yo, don't do this." Don't. That might have been her like she might be trying to reach out to Ilanka to go down, not to go down the path that she has. So, because I mean, for all we know, that might actually be Athena's mom, and Athena kind of like went buck wild, even though she stopped all of that stuff with her mom all those years ago. Because I'm still like, my theory is that Stanton's got to be Athena, and just the way she kind of spoke about things is kind of almost like she was speaking from personal experience of like, yeah, like people can't kind of accept things as they are sometimes when they should. Just that energy she was giving this episode definitely kind of feels like my theory might be in that right ballpark about her being Athena, but we'll have to wait and see. I did think it was beautiful, like everyone, now gathered around, even Sandra, everyone giving up items that are important to them, that represent a lot to them, but it's like, right, it's all worth it in the end if it means saving, if it means just give any chance of, even if it's 1 in a million of saving Anya, then that's all that matters. So they're willing to give this a shot. And at the very end, the shadow of death is there. Anya closes her eyes as it closes in, and episode ends. Because of course they're going to end it on a major cliffhanger of you not knowing, well, did it work? Did it not? What's going to happen? We'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode takes us going forward. I think it is going to work, but it might only work temporarily. And probably like, because I think I saw the episode title of the next episode. It's Anya. So like shit's probably going to get wild next episode. Like even if it works and she's getting better, there is no way that, and it's not even just Full Metal Alchemist. A lot of stuff with magic, like whether it be the magicians or just anything of that ilk, that's like, yeah, magic doesn't come without a cost. There's always going to be a cost. The question is, how steep is that price, and are you willing to pay it? And even when you think you're willing to pay it, the price always ends. There's always an asterisk, and that, be careful what you wish for type of situation, because it might just come true. But once again, you might be in like a genie djinn type of spot. You might be in a monkey's paw type of way, So we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.